General Hospital spoilers for Tuesday, July 15th, state that Michael Corinthos will enrage Willow Tate, while Sasha Gilmore Corbin's bombshell surprises Nina Reeves. Sonny Corinthos will also attempt to compel Jen Sidwell into a deal for Marco Rios' release, so there will be a lot going on in Port Charles. Tracy Quartermaine will make the first proposal on Tuesday's episode of General Hospital. Tracy will propose a fresh proposal, but Tracy's ideas are notorious for causing issues. Marco has gotten himself into some problems after Jason Morgan kidnaps him for Sonny. While Marco continues to beg for aid, Jason will lock him up and wait for further instructions. At the church, Sonny will have an advantage over Sidwell, who will be furious at Marco's theft. Sidwell may issue threats, but Sonny will believe he has the upper hand because Marco is at his mercy. Sidwell may agree to Sonny's demands for Marco's sake, but there is no assurance that any agreement they reach will stick. Sidwell may simply react once Marco is free, so Sonny is playing with fire. Lucas Jones will confront Jason about Marco's abduction and warn him about the consequences of escalation. Lucas will be concerned about Marco or someone else being killed, so he will insist Jason is partly to blame if this occurs. Drew Kane will clash with Carly Spencer and make some frightening statements regarding Michael. Drew will promise Michael that if he does not compromise with Willow, he would end up sad. Willow will cross paths with Michael, Sasha, and Daisy Gilmore while at the hospital. The tension will skyrocket when Willow receives a shocking news that could jeopardize her prospects of regaining custody of the children. Willow's recent interaction with Wiley Corinthos could come back to haunt her. Michael is determined to prevent Willow from making any visiting or custody arrangements, therefore an official complaint or possibly a restraining order may be required. Back with Sasha, she'll meet Nina and likely provide updates on her decision to leave town with Daisy. Sasha's announcement should stun Nina as they say their goodbyes. Of course, there could be some discussion about Willow and how far off the rails her life has gone. Even if Sasha isn't certain Willow is behind the bizarre Daisy-related happenings, may Nina have a suspicion? According to General Hospital teasers, Nina will have to deal with more Willow drama in the upcoming episodes, so stay tuned. According to General Hospital previews, revenge may soon rage through town as Willow Corinthos mounts a terrifying campaign to drive Sasha Gilmore Corbin to the brink, seeking to make her and Michael Corinthos face the heartbreaking sorrow of losing a child, echoing her own loss of Amelia and Wiley Corinthos. Willow's gaslighting strategy, bolstered by Daisy's July 4th crib kidnapping, aims to undermine Sasha's sanity, but she underestimated the potency of her own plots. As fans wonder what happens when the truth, which is always revealed in Port Charles, comes out, may Willow face jail or Ferncliff for her crimes? Will her actions jeopardize her prospects of obtaining custody or even visitation with her children, painting her as unstable as her late twin, Nellie Benson Jerome? General Hospital spoilers, Willow's gaslighting game. Willow's calculated moves, staging Daisy's disappearance and sowing doubts with odd incidents like swapping Daisy's outfit and mixing up the babies in the hospital nursery, are intended to mirror her empty arms for Sasha and Michael. Her wrath, spurred by her mostly justifiable custody loss and Drew Quartermaine's manipulations that she simply cannot see, blinds her to the repercussions of her actions and decisions. But as Sasha's anxieties grow, Willow's ability to gaslight may drive her too far. If Michael or Jason Morgan discover facts that point to an unstable Willow, will her strategy fail, putting her in legal or psychiatric danger? JH spoilers. Will Willow end up in Ferncliff or jail? Willow's fate is uncertain when the truth is revealed. Diane Miller may face charges of kidnapping and conspiracy in court, potentially resulting in jail time. Alternatively, her breakdown, seen by frenzied exchanges and a new sad and delicate demeanor, could mirror Nellie's craziness, placing her in Ferncliff. Her actions could jeopardize her visitation aspirations, distancing herself from extended friends and relatives who still held her in high respect, such as Sonny Corinthos. Will Willow's vendetta label her as insane, or can she back down before losing everything? General Hospital spoilers. Is there a new Nellie in the making? Is it possible that Willow spirals deep enough here to resemble her twin sister more than anyone imagined? The last thing Nona Reeves wants is for another daughter to find up in serious trouble that she can't save. But how far is Nina willing to go to keep Willow from suffering the same fate? Noelle's sudden death marked the end of a tragic existence. GH fans appear to believe Willow is on a similar path, but some haven't thrown away the good with the bad just yet, implying that Michael is too merciful to let her fall apart completely. Will Willow's attempt to drive Sasha insane put her in Ferncliff or jail, jeopardizing her prospects with her children? Or is this the start of her descent into her twin sister Nellie's sad madness? According to General Hospital spoilers, oily Jen Sidwell is pursuing Sonny Corinthos and has been successful thus far. To be so stealthy, Sidwell must have secret assets and partners. Let's go into the murky realm of Sidwell, and what it might imply for some of your favorite GH characters. Sidwell's allies in Port Charles. Sidwell arrived in Port Charles because admirers witnessed him causing trouble in Africa, where he held Lucky Spencer and Isaiah Gannon captive. Michael Corinthos was caught in an explosion in his father's apartment, so Jason Morgan and Anna Devane hurried over to rescue them. More recently, Charlie's pub caught fire. Sidwell's secrets. Sidwell wants Sonny's peers, but Mayor Laura Spencer advises against it. At this point, Sonny and Jason want to get out of the mobbing business, but Sidwell does not appear to be someone they want to sell out to after bombing the penthouse in Charlie's, let alone framing Selena Wu. Carly Corinthos Spencer is now stirring the pot, but even she is unaware of the true scope of Sidwell's antics or influence. Sonny's revenge. Is Sonny ready to get in over his head fighting an army of Sidwell's followers? Definitely, maybe. Tracy Quartermaine was willing to side with Sidwell, and D.A. Turner wants to put a stop to Sonny, which means she could support Sidwell. Jordan Ashford works for Sidwell and also wants to take down Sonny. Sidwell also has a connection to the dubious Professor Hank Dalton. That's a large number of people Sidwell is manipulating. Is there a plot against Sonny? And these are only the people we know about. Sidwell is an international armaments dealer, which means he is filthy and has a large network of contacts, some of which are questionable. Is this a struggle Sonny cannot win? After decades in PC, Sonny faces an opponent unlike any other he has encountered. Some fans are concerned about Sonny's desire to leave mobbing. Tell us, GH fans. Do you see the writing on the wall, and is Sonny poised to acknowledge defeat? General Hospital spoilers and updates for the week of July 14th tease the upper hand, major decisions, and someone's in shock. Sonny Corinthos gains the upper hand on Jen Sidwell, Michael Corinthos makes a major decision, and Jason Morgan is stunned. The upper hand. Sonny arrives at Windmere with a grim warning for Sidwell, and the two square off. Sonny informs Sidwell that his son is fair game, and he declines to participate. The scene then moves to a storeroom, where Marco Rios is attempting to extricate himself from a chair on which he is chained. Meanwhile, Lucas Jones will be frantic more than likely. He will suspect Sonny of kidnapping Marco, and he appears to be correct. Will Sidwell succumb into Sonny? Or will Marco become collateral damage? Willow Tate will receive awful news as Michael makes a major decision. Willow is in the hospital, crying, and Drew Kane is soothing her. The scene turns to Michael saying, "I can't let them obtain custody," when Willow approaches him and asks, "Michael, what have you done?" Willow will come across Michael at the hospital with Sasha Corbin and newborn Daisy Gilmore, and she may make a wrong assumption. She may overhear them negotiating Sasha's departure from Port Charles with Daisy for their own protection, and believe Michael would accompany them along with Wiley and Amelia Corinthos. Portia Robinson is clearly stressed out, as she shouts and breaks a laptop in her hospital workplace. This might be sparked by Drew outlining his strategy after delivering a warning. He could expose the devastating evidence he has that Portia tampered with and modified medical records. Curtis Ashford has been attempting to prevent this from happening, since it might result in Portia being fired, losing her medical license, and perhaps facing jail time. Is Portia reacting to this? Or is she overreacting? Has her altering Heather Weber's medical records been revealed? Jason has to fly to the airport for some reason, probably because he helped Michael get Sasha and Daisy out of town when he was tossed, and he is in amazement. A woman with a very recognizable face appears to have raced by him, and she appears to be troubled, as if she has been caught in an inappropriate situation. Could that be Britt Westbourne, or does she have a secret twin that no one knows about, probably not even Liesl Albrecht? After all, Liesl's late sister Madeline Reeves had a bothersome tendency of separating twins born to family members. Or is Britt back from the dead, and the expression on her face is the result of her recognition of Jason as well? Make sure to keep up on everything going on with GH right now. Check back regularly for General Hospital spoilers, news, and updates. Willow was already overwhelmed by the hospital's new policy changes, Wiley's shifting emotions, and her own emotional scars from the previous year's catastrophe. She'd come home looking for some quiet, expecting Michael to be the only constant who wouldn't disappoint her. However, she was taken aback by his unexpected decision to meet with Sidwell behind her back. The shock was compounded by his attitude and the way he excused it as if it were simply another day at work. "You should have told me," she replied, her voice calm but forceful, her eyes full of betrayal and dismay. She wasn't angry in the way Michael expected. Instead, her disappointment stung deeper. Michael attempted to remain cool. "Willow, this was not anything I had planned. Sidwell approached me, not the other way around. I attended the meeting for the Quartermain board's benefit. It's business." "No, not when Sidwell's contract has a direct impact on the school and the students. Not when you understand what it means to me," she added. Her voice cracked slightly, but she straightened herself, refusing to show him how wounded she truly was. Michael made a mistake in his calculations. He assumed that bringing her in after the fact would lessen the impact. However, he had misjudged how essential honesty was to her after everything they had gone through. His attempt to build a firmer financial foundation for the Sidwell-Marco education plan may have been logical in his head, but Willow saw it as political, corporate, and deceptive. It was exactly the type of backroom conduct she had avoided after leaving the cult. She required honesty, not power plays. Meanwhile, the storm that had been brewing with Nina had finally made ashore with Sasha's revelation. The young woman, delicate but no longer the fragile figure of the past, had stood in front of Nina at the Metro Court and dropped a bombshell that threw Nina's world into disarray. Sasha was pregnant. But it wasn't only that. The child was Brando's. Nina froze. The name alone awakened a hurt she had spent the previous year attempting to conceal. Brando had been the closest thing Sasha had to an anchor, and even in death, he continued to shape her life. Sasha appeared strong and unwavering, her palm protectively caressing her stomach as she watched Nina try to find the appropriate expression. Nina sat down, unable to understand the sudden outpouring of sadness and awe. Sasha had decided to keep the baby, despite all the reasons she could have walked away. And in doing so, she made a profound statement. That life could grow out of suffering, that something beautiful might emerge from the turmoil that had consumed them all. "Are you sure?" Nina finally inquired, her voice raw. Sasha nodded. "Yes. I've known for a little while. I was waiting for the appropriate opportunity to inform you. I thought you should hear it from me before you heard it on the Quartermain Gossip Network." Nina felt the weight of her decision. Sasha had shown her respect, which many others in her life had recently denied her. She stood slowly and approached Sasha, unsure whether to embrace her or merely speak, but the words were insufficient. Instead, she stretched out and softly placed her hand on Sasha's. "I am here. Whatever you need, I'm here," Nina said quietly, tears welling up in her eyes. Sasha grinned briefly, but it went fast. Shadows were never far distant. While emotions ran high in Port Charles, another agreement simmered behind the scenes, with the potential to transform the city in unexpected ways. Sidwell, a guy known for his cutthroat development methods, had engaged in covert talks with Marco, a European investor known for backing innovation ventures that frequently blurred the boundary between public benefit and private gain. They were developing a plan to bring a new center to Port Charles, one that would combine cutting-edge technology, educational reform, and urban reconstruction. Michael had seen the idea and recognized both the potential and the risk. He had believed he could navigate the waters and negotiate a deal that would benefit everyone, from the hospital to the school to the Quartermain legacy. However, his failure to interact with Willow had shook his confidence. If he couldn't convince her, how could he persuade the rest of the board? Willow, on the other hand, was not about to remain silent. She launched her own inquiry, contacting teachers, families, and even a few kids who had gotten caught up in the initial excitement over Marco's plans. What she discovered were hints of displacement, of programs being replaced by corporate objectives, and of a future that prioritized innovation over empathy. Willow has gone down that road before. Meanwhile, Sasha's pregnancy spread across town like a slow-burning fire. Nina attempted to shield her from the attention, but Port Charles was a town full of drama, and Sasha had always been a lightning rod. Gladys attempted to re-enter Sasha's life after learning of her pregnancy, claiming she wanted to assist her for Brando's sake. Sasha, cautious but not unkind, met her once at Kelly's, only to be reminded of why she had separated herself in the first place. "You say you want to help," Sasha explained gently. "But the last time you helped me, I nearly lost everything." Gladys scowled. "Humans make mistakes." "I've changed," Sasha said, looking away. "I hope you did. But I'm not ready to take that chance with my child." When Nina learned of the encounter, she felt a flash of protective wrath. She had already allowed Gladys back in, and it nearly devastated Sasha. Not again. Nina was determined to act this time. At the Quartermain mansion, emotions were rising. Brooke Lynn was upset that Michael had gone rogue on the Sidwell deal without the full board's approval. Ned, ever the pragmatist, attempted to calm things down, but he too was concerned about Marco's past. How many times have Marco's projects been shut down in Brussels and Vienna? Ned questioned Michael during a contentious family meeting. "This isn't just a business deal, it's a gamble." Michael was trapped, but he refused to give up. Every investment carries risk. But this might be a long-term answer for the hospital and the school. "We're not only talking about profits, we're discussing sustainability." "But at what cost?" Lois inquired, arriving into the room just in time to hear the concluding statement. Michael did not respond. "You can't sell off people's futures for the illusion of stability." The quiet conveyed plenty. Willow sat alone in the gatehouse, examining a file that Brooke Lynn had slipped her earlier. It was replete with analysis from Marco's prior businesses, including notes on housing disasters, misappropriated finances, and secretly abandoned social pledges. Willow noticed the truth in the patterns, despite the carefully crafted language and corporate jargon. This was not about development. It was all about control. And now she had to choose between confronting Michael again and going to the board herself. She picked the latter. Willow then presented her findings to Monica and a few other senior members of the hospital board, meticulously outlining the Sidwell-Marco initiative's contradictions and potential hazards. She wasn't trying to undermine Michael's efforts, only divert them. Monica listened closely, and by the end of the conversation, it was evident that the project would be reevaluated. It was a quiet victory, but not one Willow celebrated. Later that night, Michael arrived home to find her waiting for him on the porch. She appeared exhausted but composed. "You went to the board," he replied calmly. "I did," she responded. "I did not do that to get behind your back." Michael nodded slowly. "I did it because I had to. I should have included you from the beginning." "Yes," Willow replied. "You should have." They did not argue. They did not raise their voices. But the silence between them was more audible than any fight they had ever had. Elsewhere, Sasha and Nina sat together in the park, the air light from the approaching summer. Although the baby was still months away, Sasha's eyes were filled with hope for the future. And Nina, despite her weaknesses, remained unwavering. "I don't know what kind of mother I'll be," Sasha added. "You'll be the kind that tries," Nina replied. "That's all anyone can ask." In the city's shadows, Sidwell called Marco again. The agreement was not dead. It was only delayed. Because in Port Charles the past is never buried, the future is never assured, and the truth, no matter how deeply buried, is always brought to light. General Hospital spoilers for Monday, July 14th, suggest that Jason Morgan kidnapped Marco Rios, while Jen Sidwell threatened Professor Henry, Hank Dalton over a project delay. Lucy Coe supported Sidwell at Natalia Ramirez's memorial and briefly defended Sonny, but Sidwell acted as if nothing could be ruled out. Meanwhile, Alexis Davis visited Marco and tried to persuade him that Sonny had nothing to do with Natalia's death. Despite Lucas Jones' several texts, Marco did not respond while he spoke with Alexis and eventually organized Natalia's memorial. At JH, Isaiah Gannon sensed Lucas and Willow Tate's tension and forced them to put their personal troubles aside in order to work together. Willow's outburst regarding Michael Corinthos surprised Isaiah because he'd never heard her talk like way before. Willow insisted Michael drive her everywhere, and she remembered moving Daisy Gilmore from her cot. At Carly Spencer's house, Michael informed Carly and Sonny about Sasha Gilmore Corbin's decision to leave town with Daisy. When Sonny learned what had transpired, he became concerned that someone was attempting to gain access to his granddaughter. Although Sonny provided round-the-clock protection, Michael backs Sasha's decision to leave Port Charles. Michael indicated that once Daisy had her vaccines and checkup at GH, Jason would take care of getting Sasha and the baby out of town. At home, Anna Devane coped with a tumultuous morning that included Outback eating her shoe, Emma Scorpio Drake's damage control, and Giovanni Gio Palmieri's unintentional breakfast thievery. Anna also requested a background investigation on Vaughn and expressed her concerns to Felicia Scorpio about him. Anna was suspicious when Vaughn's background check came out clean. Vaughn and Jocelyn Jacks met with Jack Brennan at his office to discuss Anna's growing suspicions. Brennan knew Anna would be investigating and becoming increasingly dubious of Vaughn's spotless record. Brennan told Jocelyn and Vaughn to be the most convincing couple Port Charles had ever seen. There was even mention of a messenger physically carrying information from Professor Dalton to his employer. Brennan stated that if they located the messenger, they were in. At Lulu Spencer's residence, she informed Jason that he could not speak to Rocco Falconeri about Britt Westbourne again. Jason mentioned that there were two versions of Britt, including the one he knew, who had transformed toward the end of her life. However, Jason was willing to follow Lulu's wishes and refrain from speaking with Rocco about Britt. After Jason left, Alexis asked Lulu for aid in determining who authored the hit piece on Sunny, and Lulu instantly agreed. Danny Morgan gushed about Daisy's lovely attire when she relaxed in Sasha's arms beside the pool. Rocco also approached Sasha at one point, and they discussed how kids recognize their mother's voices after hearing them in the womb. Willow then stared at Michael, Sasha, and Daisy as they arrived at the hospital, sharing a nice family moment. Back at the pool, Dalton complained about the poor service after Danny and Rocco waited so long to retrieve his towels. When Dalton saw Outback on his chair, he reacted angrily and suggested the boys forfeit their employment. Emma jumped to Rocco and Danny's defense since Outback was her puppy. Despite not being hired as a research assistant, Emma offered to help Professor Dalton by taking some of his responsibilities. Dalton accepted Emma's offer and left, so Emma informed Gio, Rocco, and Danny about his past of animal testing and prepared to take him down. Next, Professor Dalton went to the chapel and met Sidwell, who mentioned that their common acquaintance was becoming impatient, and neither of them were pleased with Dalton's progress. He'll send a courier next week to find out what's taking so long. Sidwell cautioned Dalton, if you don't have them, there'll be hell to pay. Lucas was unable to contact Marco, so he asked Carly to let him into Marco's hotel suite. There was no indication of Marco inside, so Lucas became even more concerned about the unpleasant news. Marco was already in captivity as a result of a kidnapping arranged by Sunny. Marco hammered on the door, hoping for assistance, but Jason only stood outside, pensive. Sidwell expected Marco to join him at the church for Natalia's memorial, but Sunny arrived instead and stated that Marco would not be attending. According to General Hospital spoilers, Sunny and Sidwell will have another fierce battle, so stay tuned. General Hospital teasers indicate that a preview clip has been released for Monday, July 14, 2025. It depicts Marco Rios blaming Sunny Corinthos. However, Alexis Davis defends the mob leader. Meanwhile, Carly Spencer blows up. Willow Tate, on the other hand, is blaming others. Continue reading to learn more about what will happen in the next episode of ABC's soap opera. Let's start with Marco, who has a lot of animosity for Sunny. The lawyer accuses the mob boss of Natalia Ramirez's death. Plus, with Curtis Ashford forced to publish that horrific headline, Sunny's situation could worsen before it improves. Meanwhile, Marco is fuming with Alexis about Sunny. However, Alexis is teased as coming to Sunny's defense. Lucy Coe's discovery over at Windmere, Lucy Coe speaks with Jen Sidwell. In the promo for Monday's show, Sidwell tells Lucy, "Who knows what happened at this point?" Willow Tate's blame game. General Hospital previews for the next episode indicate that Willow will continue to blame everyone but herself. Willow opens out to Isaiah Gannon about her custody issues. The nurse believes Michael Corinthos drove her to all of it. Willow had previously received some wise words from Isaiah. Could he guide her in the correct direction? On Monday, July 14, 2025, viewers will find Michael standing in his mother's kitchen, while Carly and Sunny converse. Carly lashes out at her ex-husband while Michael watches. The blonde inquires, "You believe someone is going after that small kid because of you?" Carly will want Sunny to thwart this revenge plot before more innocent people, particularly children, are hurt. However, Sunny is a tenacious man who is constantly determined to win. Jocelyn and Vaughn meet with Jack Brennan after wrapping up their investigation into Professor Henry Hank Dalton. In an anxious tone, Jack reminds Jocelyn that if they are going to do this, she must totally commit. Lulu Spencer also warns Jason Morgan not to say anything about Britt Westbourne. However, supporters know that Rocco Falconeri has already obtained some information from Jason. So, what happens when Lulu learns that Rocco contacted Liesl Orkicht?